This is the all-new Redmi 14C, and I'm going to be the first to say it. It's not very different. Okay, so first, let's start with the obvious. We got a new design with the 14C, and with that new design, we also got new colors: black, green, purple, and blue. The black, purple, and blue come with a glossy glass back, while the green variant has a matte, leather-like finish. I got the black variant, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's a fingerprint magnet. The blue and purple variants, although still glossy, don't show as much fingerprints as the black one. So if it wasn't obvious already, I'm telling you not to buy the black variants, unless you want to wipe your phone every time you touch it. Just like the Redmi A3 and the newly released Spark 30C, Redmi went with a very large looking circular camera module. At first glance, it might look like it has 3 or even 4 cameras, but no, really it's just one 50 megapixel sensor. I'm going to show you photos and video samples a little later in the video, but first, I wanted to talk about its display. Even though this isn't like a big deal, it still kind of sucks that Redmi went with a U-shaped notch on the 14C. There are literally phones that cost less with a hole punch cutout, so I don't really see why they didn't do that here. For its specs, it's almost the same as last year. The only differences are with its screen size and its refresh rate. The 14C has a slightly bigger display than the 13C. And I don't know if it's just me, but I would have preferred if they made it smaller instead. But maybe that's just me. Another major change is with its refresh rate. It's now 120 Hz. Or rather, I should say up to 120 Hz. What does that even mean? Well, apparently, it's only when you're in the settings app that the display refreshes at 120 Hz. When you're anywhere else, the home screen, Google Chrome, a game, it refreshes at either 90 Hz or 60 Hz, sometimes even lower. So even though on paper it's different from the 13C, when you really look at it, you notice it's not that very different. Now, I'm definitely not saying that this display is crap or that it's unusable. No, I'm just saying that you're going to have about the same experience with this display as you did with the 13C. So in all, it's an okay display. You're definitely going to enjoy watching content on it. Performance is another category that is different on paper, but in the real world isn't too different. The 14C uses the Helio G81 Ultra processor. The 13C, if you remember, uses the Helio G85. Now you might think the G85 is better than the G81 because it's higher, but reverse is the case. The G81 is actually better, on paper anyway. In the real world, you cannot tell them apart. You're going to have basically the same experience using this phone as you would using the 13C. And yeah, just like with that phone, my experience using this was fine. And by fine, I mean the phone was able to handle all of my basic smartphone needs. Social media, watching YouTube videos, browsing on Chrome, texting, making calls, and even gaming. It handled all of that. But also, because this is a budget phone, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the quickest to open apps, took a couple seconds, sometimes even more. When doing some heavy multitasking, I did experience some lagging and stuttering. And then also when playing heavy games, you can expect to play at the lowest graphics settings, or at best the medium graphics settings. But still, like I said, for a budget phone, this is fine. I got the base variant with 4 gigs of RAM, but I would suggest, like I always do, that you go for at least 6 gigs of RAM. If possible, 8. Okay, so I think it's time to show you those photos and videos I said I was going to show you. If you remember, I said the 14C has just one working camera, a 50 megapixel sensor. Just like that phone, the more light you give the camera, the better your results would be. And you can kind of see that for yourself. But one thing to note is that just like other smartphones at this price range, it's not very consistent. So it's not going to give you good photos every single time you hit that shutter button. But at least 7 times out of 10, it should. Also, just like the 13C, this phone shoots max at 1080p 30 fps with no stabilization. So in addition to giving it as much light as you can, you also want to use a tripod when filming videos or just stay extremely still. I didn't mention this earlier, but the 13C had a 2 megapixel macro lens. That lens was removed and sort of replaced on the 14C. It's now a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Oh, and the selfie camera is now 13 megapixels. It was 8 on the 13C. We're going to be talking about its battery life in a bit, but first, I wanted to show you guys these new power banks from itel, today's sponsor. They released 4 new power banks in their Power Pulse series. I got sent 2 of them. I have the 12 watt 10,000 mAh Power Pulse 1 and also the 20 watt 20,000 mAh Power Pulse 1. Both power banks have an LED display to show you the percentage of your power bank. They also both have 3 ports which can be used at the same time, 2 USB-A ports and 1 USB-C in-out port. The bigger 20,000 mAh power bank comes with a flashlight, while the smaller 10,000 mAh one doesn't. But because that has a smaller battery, it's actually thinner, lighter, and very easy to carry around. I like that. These power banks also have something itel is calling Power AI Tech. It's basically a fast charging technology that is able to adapt to multiple different fast charging protocols. So they're saying that no matter what phone you're using, with these power banks, you would be able to charge quickly. That technology also ensures safe charging. It has measures in place to protect and even extend your battery's lifespan. If you're interested in picking one up, it will be the first link in the description. Okay, now back to the video. The 14C is running on Xiaomi's HyperOS on top of Android 14. HyperOS is alright. It's so far been bug-free, but not ad-free. You get served ads every now and then there are just way too many pre-installed apps. I think I counted about 11, but they can be uninstalled. I'm not certain that this would get any major OS updates, but if I had to guess, I'll probably say 1, maybe. I'll let you know in the comments if I can confirm that. What I can confirm is that this has a bigger battery. We get a 5,160 mAh battery, so about 160 mAh bigger than the 13C. With moderate use, the 13C was giving all-day battery life, 8, 9, and even 10 plus hours of screen on time. So this too, no doubt, would give you all-day battery life. And then for charging, just like the 13C, this supports 18 watts of wired charging. But for some reason, like some of you pointed out, Redmi included a 33 watt charger in the box. Its max charging speed is 18 watts, but they gave us a 33 watt charger. I don't know, maybe they had way too many 33 watt chargers just lying around that they wanted to get rid of. It would take roughly 2 hours to fill up this phone, so not very quick, but at the same time, you're most likely charging at night, so you won't even notice. These though are some things I noticed about the 14C. One is that Redmi gave us a TPU case on the 14C. They didn't do that with the 13C. I also noticed that we don't get second space and split screen multitasking. I guess they've concluded that people buying this phone just don't need that feature. If you're looking for the fingerprint sensor, it's on the power button, and I can confirm that it works really well. And then if you're wondering if it has support for 2 SIM cards and an SD card, the answer is yes, it does. Oh, and I also just want to add that with the 14C, we get just one speaker, one downward firing speaker. The 14C starts at 135,000 and goes up to 175. Should you buy it? Well, if you're using a 13C, no. Like I said in the intro, this is not very different from that. And then for those coming from an older phone, yes, you can upgrade to this. For a $90 smartphone, this is kind of good. But I would still say that you could get something better for the price. Unlike the Redmi 13C, this, although a good phone, isn't the best you can buy for $100. There's just a lot more competition. So yeah, that's my review of the Redmi 14C. It's not the best. It's also not very different from its predecessor, but it's still a good phone. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.